But the fact that this thing about what Zelenskyy was wearing became an issue, let's do a little bit of a flashback. Here is J.D. Vance tweeting about this in 2023, and he says, look, I know Schumer changed the dress code, but letting someone in the Senate chamber dressed like this really crosses the line. It is amazing to me that this is even a conversation that we are having.
That's right. And it is just a total fall into the Trump reality television show that was his plan from the beginning. He is a top marketing. I would say he would run a phenomenal agency, social media agency as well. But the fact that this is what continues to get airwaves and real estate in our minds when it comes to the fact that we are now regressing back to another chapter in the Cold War is so stunning to us. Churchill came to the White House during World War II in his military garb. We have seen our elected officials go to post-natural disaster zones wearing windbreakers. Zelensky is in the middle of a war, and it is fully appropriate.
I actually think that Churchill analogy, first of all, it's been made before. And when the war started, a lot of people said that he was channeling a sort of Churchillian aesthetic by basically signaling to his people as their commander-in-chief that they were in a war, right? And now it's become, I think, for the right, a symbol that he is cosplaying as a military hero when he's not.
Well, let's talk about what's most important. That was disgraceful, disgusting, disrespectful, dangerous, and bad for not just Ukraine, but bad for American national security. It felt un-American. It felt traitorous. I've never seen a reaction from veterans of all backgrounds like I have in the last couple of hours to that disgusting, demoralizing display. So I don't even want to focus too much on what was worn. I want to focus on what was said and what happened. And that was a real low point for American leadership. And right now, it also, importantly, to focus on, makes America less safe. Our allies are less supportive. We have more people around the world who hate us. And America, in my view, hasn't been this isolated since I and many others invaded Iraq. And I think that's what we have to focus on, is that America is less safe today because of that.
Yeah, I don't think people care about the clothes. This is something that people have talked about with Zelensky since the start of the war. He's typically worn the military fatigue, and people have talked about that. Washington, D.C.
Just to be clear, I don't want to interrupt you, but please continue. But the reporting is that this was a problem for President Trump, that it set the tone for their meeting, which is why we're talking about it, because it actually had an impact on how they conducted this meeting.
So the good thing is that everybody saw at the beginning, the conversation, that joking that Donald Trump said, he said he looked nice. I actually thought that Zelensky, as opposed to the fatigue, I thought he looked good in what he had on. Donald Trump pointed that out. But it also, in that exchange in the Oval Office, he even joked about the fact and said that I think he looks nice. That's literally what Donald Trump said. Now, I thought that the reporter's question actually was just absolutely ridiculous. I don't know who the guy is.
It is Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend.
Well, see, you're using your time to ask questions about clothes.
Yeah, but it just goes to show the shallow currency.
I think the description of a reporter is a bit of a stretch.
Yes, exactly. Why he's in the Oval Office to begin with.
Yeah, on this question of like what's happening with the diplomacy playing out publicly in this way. I mean, Donald Trump is a reality TV show producer, but here's Karl Rove saying this was a whole mistake.
This is why diplomacy should never be conducted in public. I'm confident, and we now know that, for example, in World War II, there were heated disagreements between Franklin Roosevelt, Joseph Stalin, and Winston Churchill, but we didn't see them broadcast on TV. This is a mistake to have it broadcast. This was not the moment that should have been televised.
It wasn't just a mistake, it was an ambush. I mean, this was a plan. This was a politically calculated ambush from all sides, right? No one would feel comfortable walking into an environment like that from any country, and no one should be treated that way. From the reporter to the greeting to the mocking of his clothes, it was beneath America and beneath the White House to treat a guest in our country and a leader who is actively engaged in combat, who is right now losing his fellow service members. He's losing his women and children. His cities are being bombed. And we're talking about his clothes, and we're talking to him that way. It was victim shaming, which is what Trump has been doing to Zelensky in Ukraine since before he got elected. It's unacceptable, it's inappropriate, and it's also undermining not just Ukraine, but our own national security. We are now aligned with the bad guys. Russia is the bad guy, Ukraine is the good guy. And when we continue to attack Ukraine and defend Russia, that puts us in line with the bad guys, which is not where America wants to be.
Well,
Is
it's
this a
very
flipping
clear.
Pete of the American allegiances, because that's what it kind of seems like.
Well, actually, I want to weigh in on the clothing. I know you're trying to distract us from it, but
Okay,
I do.
weigh
I
in
do.
on
No,
that.
I do.
Smarter
No, but this is
conversation.
why.
Clothing
Hold
is a
on, hold
No,
on, hold on.
this is
Smarter
why.
conversation.
Clothing
Okay,
is a
you guys,
distraction.
hang on a
I'm
second.
trying to
Hold on.
focus.
Let me
Weigh in
say.
on the
You
clothing,
came at me,
but
so
do
I'm gonna
answer my
respond.
question.
But as an alum of the George W. Bush White House, I have an old-fashioned view of this and a pretty hard line. Tie, jacket, no jeans, Oval Office. That's where I stand on this. But
What do you
if
think
we're going,
about
hold
Elon
on,
Musk?
hold. Can you
Ooh,
let me finish?
thank you.
Because
Now
that's
you know how
exactly what I was
Zelensky-
about
now
to
you
say.
know
He
how
didn't even
Zelensky
show up
felt
in a
If we're going to
t-shirt.
Now you know how
have, going
Zelensky
to
felt.
criticize
Well played.
President Zelensky for what he's wearing, then we should also criticize Elon Musk for wearing a hat and a t-shirt
Tell it to
in the
Donald
Oval
Trump
Office.
and J.D. Vance. So
I just did.
You're being consistent, but the White House isn't being consistent, and they have no credibility to talk about decorum. I mean, the reason why this question was asked is because this so-called reporter from One American News was there. Why was this person even in the room? Why was there a reporter from the Russian news agency TASS, state media from Russia, in the room in the Oval Office? That's what
Okay.
I'm talking about when I talk about the incompetence of this administration, and yet you can't have the Associated Press there because Trump doesn't like them because they won't refer to the
Okay,
Gulf
I've
of
actually
Mexico as Gulf of
escorted
America.
media into the Oval
So have
Office.
I. I've
It was
done the
part of
Pulitzer
my
Prize
job.
before.
I know,
and
but
you
who
know it
cares?
is
We don't
absolute
care. Hold on a
chaos
second.
when the foreign media is there.
If you can't control whether the Russian news agency is allowed to come into the Oval Office, one of the most protected spaces in the country, then you don't have the moral credibility or even the intellectual ability to be able to run the White
Pete,
House.
I want you to answer the substance of what Paul just said. He said this is victim blaming, victim shaming of Ukraine, which is the victim in this whole dynamic. What's your response to that?
I just we talked about this for 2 segments prior to you coming out here,
And I saw it.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
and
and it's-
President Zelensky was the instigator in this conversation.
You are absolutely wrong, and you are
100%.
perpetuating the propaganda of
That
Russia.
wasn't propaganda.
Hold on, let me finish.
He interjected
I-
himself.
I'm
That
offended
wasn't
by that.
propaganda.
You can be as
I'm
offended.
absolutely
I am
offended
I am
by
offended
that.
by what you say and how you
Really?
present this entire situation. I'm an alumni of
You're
a different-
offended that
excuse
the
me,
United States wants to negotiate
I'm an alumni
an end
of the
to the
United
war.
States Army. That's what I'm an alumni of. And millions of veterans around this country saw that today on our outrage of all backgrounds because of the
And there
way,
are
the way it
millions
was
who
conducted
saw it
and because
and
there are
who saw
people like
strength
you who are
from our
who are
president.
standing with Putin instead of
That's
with
not
America
standing
and
with
instead of
Putin
with
to
our
say that
values.
Zelensky should